With the Winter Olympics fast approaching, the head of the National Counterterrorism Center said today that there is a substantial potential for a terrorist attack at the Sochi Games. So, how did a Russian beachside resort become the site for the Games in the first place? Tonight, a whistleblower with a price on his head makes startling allegations about shady deals to ABC's chief investigative correspondent Brian Ross in our exclusive Olympic Gold, Olympic Greed.
This year's Winter Olympics could have been held in the Austrian Alps with its storied villages,
평창 동계올림픽 유치,
or in this popular ski resort in the mountains of South Korea, a snowboarder's paradise. Instead, the International Olympic Committee chose a subtropical Russian city on the Black Sea, famed for its summer beaches, but one of the few places in Russia that rarely gets snow. And that's the least of this city's problems. While Sochi is better known for its palm trees than its snow, there is a blizzard of allegations of unsavory ties to organized crime figures, official corruption, and a location near a hotbed of Islamic terrorists who have threatened to attack here. All of which raises the question of why the International Olympic Committee chose Sochi in the first place. Has Olympic greed become more important than Olympic gold? To find out, we met some of the few Russian journalists brave enough to ask those questions, including Sergei Kanov, who always has a hidden camera in his bag in case he is attacked again, as he has been twice before, with strangulation marks on his neck to prove it.
One put a slip knot over my neck and tried to strangle me.
And we tracked down a Russian businessman who went into hiding after making allegations of Kremlin corruption that led to threats on his life.
You will be drowned in blood.
And we heard from the mayor of Sochi, who tried to laugh off our questions about corruption and mafia ties, with an aide off camera telling him not to answer.
What are you talking about? Never. Sochi could never be a mafia city because this is a city where people come to relax.
The decision by the International Olympic Committee to choose Sochi was made 7 years ago.
The choice of Sochi is the best choice.
There's no doubt that the personal appearance by Russian President Vladimir Putin was a big factor. He spoke in English, something he almost never does in public.
Sochi's Olympic bid has already brought its benefits.
But that's not the whole story of why Putin and Russia won the day.
Are awarded to the city of Sochi.
An ABC News investigation has found that behind the scenes, this mystery man was directly involved in helping Russia get the needed Olympic votes. His name is Gafur Rahimov, who says he's just a businessman, a vice president of what's known as the Olympic Council of Asia. He has been publicly thanked by the Russian Olympic Committee for his single-minded work in delivering the votes of some Asian countries for Sochi, without which it would have been hard for Sochi to count on the victory. But we discovered Rahimov is much more than just another businessman with friends on the Olympic Committee.
He is one of the 4 or 5 most important people in the heroin trade in the world. He's absolutely a very major and very dangerous gangster.
Craig Murray, the former British ambassador to Uzbekistan, Rahimov's home country, says Rahimov has a track record of payoffs to government officials to make sure his drugs move across Asia and Russia into Europe without interference.
A lot of it ends up here in the United Kingdom. It's primarily for the European market. There's an awful lot of it used in Russia. St. Petersburg itself has a terrible heroin problem.
In fact, as U.S. authorities sought to freeze Rahimov's bank accounts, they described him as a key member of a huge Russian-Asian criminal syndicate with a specialty in the organized production of drugs in the countries of Central Asia that travel all the way to Europe. Yet that's the very person the Russians admit they used to help them get the votes for the Winter Olympics in Sochi.
If we're talking about these links between criminals and the Kremlin, then you don't have to go far.
Russian investigative reporter Sergei Kanov showed us photos of Rahimov with the mafia boss of Sochi before the mafia boss was killed last year, and told us that Rahimov would not help Russia unless there was something in it for him and his close-knit criminal network, which is known in Russia as the thieves-in-law.
There was obviously some sort of agreement between the Kremlin and the thieves-in-law.
And Kenneth showed us this photo of Rahimov at a Russian Olympic children's event. His alleged ties to heroin trafficking apparently not a problem.
At that time, he was known as a drug trafficker, and there was a warrant for his arrest in Uzbekistan.
Rahimov, through a translator and spokesperson, denied any criminal wrongdoing, but confirmed to ABC News his role in helping Russia get the Olympics. Quote, he talked to them, the translator said. He convinced them because of his good relations with these people. He has great influence. He added it was not necessary to pay any money or bribes.
The Olympic Committee should be embarrassed by this, but let's face it, this is one of, it's a terrible scandal, but it's one of a large number of scandals that have dogged international sport over many years. And it seems extremely difficult to embarrass these people into behaving well.
And from that tainted beginning, with votes obtained thanks to the help of an accused drug kingpin, a cloud of crime and corruption has lingered over the Sochi Olympics ever since. As Russia went on an estimated $50 to $60 billion spending spree for the Winter Games, with dozens of buildings and facilities springing up all across the area, as seen in these time-lapse promotional videos, critics say huge amounts of that money ended up in the bank accounts of well-connected Russians.
Everybody knows that this is the most criminal case in the history of Russia.
Boris Nemtsov, a former Russian deputy prime minister and Putin political rival, has produced what he says is documented evidence of rampant criminality in what will be the most expensive Olympics ever.
My estimation that they stole about $30 billion altogether.
They stole?
Yeah.
30 billion?
Yeah, 30 billion. It's about half of the cost.
Nemtsov points to the Olympic Stadium, 3 times the cost of any previous stadium anywhere in the world. And worse, Nemtsov says, the $9 billion highway and railroad that had to be built to link the summer resort city to the mountains where the snow is, 30 miles away.
By most accounts, this may be the world's most expensive highway per mile.
About $300 million a mile, with Nemtsov saying it is the corruption, not the concrete, that makes it so very expensive.
For example, American program to fly to Mars is 3 times cheaper. Do you know that? Real. This is $3 billion.
And then there's the Olympic ski jump, 2 years behind schedule and more than 6 times over budget. This remarkable video shows President Putin's reaction as aides try to dodge around the question of who is responsible. He was a top Russian Olympics official.
Who was that?
Comrade Bilalov.
Bilalov. What's he doing now?
He's managing resorts in the northern Caucasus.
Putin's not satisfied.
What else?
I don't know what else he has been doing.
Now he asks another aide.
Where does Bilalov work now?
Bilalov is the vice president of the Olympic Committee.
Bilalov is the vice president? So the vice president of the National Olympic Committee is taking care of such a large-scale construction.
Putin's steely reaction says it all. The Olympic vice president, Ahmed Bilalov, has now fled the country, accused of embezzling several $1 million, a charge he denies. Despite all that, in his interview with George Stephanopoulos of ABC News, President Putin said no one had presented any evidence of a serious corruption problem.
We have not seen any big, large-scale instances of corruption in connection with the implementation of the Sochi Olympics project.
And we heard the same thing from the mayor of Sochi, Anatoly Pakamov, who gave us a 45-minute walking tour of all the improvements he says the city is making, telling us reports of corruption are just journalist fantasies. So you don't think this is going to be a corrupt Olympics?
I can say with certainty that there were no corruption schemes during the construction of the Olympic facilities.
They're just making it up.
They make it up.
But the evidence of corruption and criminality is overwhelming, Russian businessmen told us, right into the office of the president in Moscow, to the officials who control construction contracts in Sochi.
This is the system how the business is bought.
For years, Valery Morozov, now in exile in Britain after going public with his allegations, says he did business with top officials in the president's office.
You have to pay. There is no way out.
Morozov says he used a piece of luggage like this bag to regularly deliver tens of millions of rubles, what he called a corruption tax, to a key official. Stuffed with rubles.
Start with rubles, and I've given this a few times.
Who got all that money?
He said, you know that this is not my money. This is not money for me. I am to bring it upstairs.
Morozov says a prosecutor's report concluded the official personally accepted a bribe in form of a large sum of money, but no charges were brought. And now Morozov says he is a marked man, even living in an undisclosed location far away from Russia in England, fearing the threats against him will be carried out once the Olympics are over.
What were the threats against you?
That you will be drowned in blood, you'll wash with blood.
Those are the words?
Yes.
You'll be drowned in blood?
Yes.
The International Olympic Committee says all the allegations in our report should be handled by the host government, President Putin's Russia. And as Putin told ABC News, the Russians have already determined that there is no serious corruption problem surrounding the Olympics. See no evil, hear no evil.